and welcome back to Talking TSM, the Game House's talk show about TSM's LCS team. I'm Robert Haynes, your host and your guide into the world of TSM's LCS team. And we are knee-deep into the LCS playoffs at the moment, which has been, good and bad, honestly. I have been impressed with some teams and not so much others. But what I am happy about is the fact that we're back. The show's back. And I'm going to probably end up having to... I'm most likely going to end up having to record a second episode this week, which is why this one's going to be probably a little bit shorter than we normally go. The reason being that I am heading to the LCS Finals in Houston this Friday. I will be there for the games Saturday and Sunday, and I hope to see some of you there. If you're going to be there, please let me know in the comment section. Hit me up on Twitter. I would love to say hi to you guys and chat with you for a few minutes. I'll be there doing my duty as a content creator, as a as a media member, but I'll be there for the fan event beforehand, both days. If they're having it both days, I know they're having it at least Saturday, but I should be there for both days in terms of the fan event, and I'm really looking forward to seeing some of you. I know some of you have already reached out. Let me know that you're going to be there. For the rest of you, please let me know. It'd be fun to chat and talk about what we think is going to happen with TSM, and we'll see. But yeah, so I just wanted to let you guys know this one will be a little bit of a shorter episode because I still wanted to make sure I get something out, get some thoughts out on a lot of the conversation that's been had lately. Talk a little bit about the LCS, what I am seeing currently, and I think we'll go from there. We've had 2 weeks off now. It was a huge drain, I think, for all of us as fans, and I know as the players too. And finishing the split, at least they finished strong, right? They, I think, played a lot better than I thought they were going to. Finishing 4-5 is nothing to scoff at for this team. There were very clear improvements that were being made. They were taking teams down to the end. Now, they still had their games where they were just completely useless. But it's clear to me that this team has some interesting parts to it. And I think that's what we're going to spend a lot of the offseason kind of talking about, to be honest with you guys. I'm not going to dive into it in today's episode. This will be for next week's episode, because that's when the official offseason will begin for the LCS. We will have our LCS champion crowned, and they will be heading off to Korea for MSI. And, that'll be fun, hopefully. I hope whoever ends up going, my money is still on TL, but even though they just lost yesterday, when I'm recording this now, even though they lost yesterday to 100 Thieves in an absolute banger of a series. I mean, just what an unbelievable comeback for 100 Thieves. I mean, they really were pretty awesome. But yeah, so, once that's done, we'll have that episode released on that Monday. I'll have it uploaded and all that stuff, before I head out. And I'll be getting back mid-afternoon-ish, late Monday. So, it's just going to be busy, fam. It's going to be busy. So, yeah, the plan is to dive a little deeper into specifically the mid lane options. But I want to look at kind of the team as a whole right now. I've had more time to think about it. I have some rumors that I've been hearing. There are things that will be interesting, I think, coming from this team. Now, let's start with this. The latest rumors that I've been hearing are just the latest murmurs. I would call them more murmurs. is that TSM are for sure making changes. Okay, that's pretty obvious, but it should at least be stated that yes, TSM are going to be making changes. Now, what kind of changes and to what degree, I don't know. I've had one person tell me major changes, like huge changes coming in, potentially blowing up the roster type changes. I've had another person tell me they're just going to switch out mid. And then I've had another one telling me that they're going to try to rebuild around Spica. Okay. Out of all of those, the one that I believe, at least for the middle off season, if you want to call it that, or the MSI period, I believe that mid lane is the only thing that needs to be changed. That rumor, I think, makes the most sense. But that being said, my source that has been not necessarily always correct, but has been a lot more reliable, that's telling me that the roster is going to get blown up. Well, is generally the most reliable one that I've been getting. Most of my sources are pretty good, by the way. They're normally pretty good. Some of it they hear a little bit secondhand and stuff, but they're normally pretty good, and they're pretty honest with me about what they're hearing, and whether or not it's a true rumor or if it's just, again, some murmurs. Right now, everything seems to be murmurs. The one that has been feeding me, I think, the best information on TSM as of late, makes me believe that, that the blow up might happen, because apparently there's some rifts between Spica and the upper management. That is the words that I have been told. I am using a little less poignant language. I don't know if poignant would be the right word. I don't know, specific language, just because of the fact that these teams and orgs seem to kind of change and flip on a dime. What I can tell you is Dominic is not putting up with nothing. There's nothing that's going to go on without this man figuring it out now, because I think he has a plan in place. And if when regime changes happen in esports or sports teams, then players, even beloved players, get moved, right? And so if the blow up option happens, which I just really would be hard pressed to feel like that would be the right call, at least, or the most likely call, just because it's the middle of the season, by the way, then we're going to have a lot to talk about. I mean, a ton. That being said, I really just don't believe that that's going to be the case. And I'm going to lay out a couple reasons why. First off, and honestly, I think the most important reason is it's the middle of the season, right? If normally you use the spring to get ready for your summer run in Worlds, TSM's goal is to find success on the world stage. If you blow it up and completely start over, then you have next to no chance to make it to Worlds. That doesn't mean they couldn't make... Well, they'll obviously make playoffs. 8 teams make playoffs. I say obvious, they finished 9th, but I think it's pretty likely, that they would make playoffs. But I don't, I don't see them going very far with a brand new roster unless if they really find some good, young, but more polished, young rookie talent. Okay. That would be, I think, mine and Mallory's optimal choice here, because it felt like they did kind of a half rebuild here. And I didn't dislike the thought process behind it. I think the execution ended up lacking because of certain coaches and whatnot. The second reason is I really do believe that they're just one player away right now from at least being a top 5 team. Mid lane is just so unbelievably important, and we didn't really have a great mid laner. Even at I shouldn't say, obviously we didn't have a great mid laner, but neither of our mid laners that played had a great game necessarily. They're good games we thought were great just by comparison of what we had seen all season. When you're sitting there and you're watching Bjergsen and Abadage and Jojo Pyun and Fudge playing still in the playoffs, it's pretty obvious how big the gap is to me between, Takeover and Kaiduo. And it's not on them. I mean, they're young. I totally understand it. And Jojo Pyun, I think people are forgetting how young he is. I think he's either the youngest or the second youngest player in the LCS right now. And Jojo Pyun is able to go toe-to-toe with these guys. He still has so much room to grow. And he's a generational type talent. And I don't think that Kaiduo, and I know for a fact Takeover, were never seen as those types of players when they were being brought in. I really still wish that TSM would have just started this season going after the youngest, best talent that they could. It's fine that they didn't. I'm okay with Shenyi. I still think Shenyi is. He's also one of the youngest players in the league. I do believe that he could be a nice, solid piece for them to build around if he can kind of fix his mentality in the way that he sees things, in the way that he sees the team, in the way that he treats his teammates. But even throwing all of that out, when you head to the summer split, we get 18 games. And when this team was able to go 4-5 and even take TL down to the wire and really start to figure things out with a much more, I think, aggressive mid laner. His biggest problem, it was like he was always behind in CS. I do think that he had much better ideas of playmaking and the ability to be a little bit more aggressive at times when necessary and be able to follow up on things than Kaiduo did. And I think, a lot of that has to do with a language barrier. I still believe Kaiduo is a better player overall than Takeover, but I think it was just easier, for Takeover to kind of just mesh in with the team. I still believe that this team has made a mistake by not already signing somebody, and I know that's going to be like, well, what do you mean? The offseason hasn't technically started yet. That's fine, but there are 3 very specific free agents that are available in Jensen, Jizuke, and Niski, who I think are of the caliber that can help this team. And they talked about it on the last, TSM Legends. This team was never able to really come together. All they felt was hardship. They never felt the joy of being teammates, right? Until Chawi called that week off, which I think was actually probably potentially his best move of the season, honestly. They didn't have that camaraderie, I mean, Spica and Tactical kind of had their individual one, and Spica and Huni had their individual one, and and Kaiduo and Shenyi had their individual one, and then Takeover came in and Yursan came in, and they were kind of just on their own trying to figure things out. This team never had a chance to bond, and we talked about it all season. This is why I'm not a big fan of roster changes early on. The team needs more time to develop together. Now, again, I think that they made the right call in the end for these roster changes, mostly because of the fact that the team was apparently not performing at all in scrims. And that must have been very obvious to them. And they must have really felt like these teams, that Shenyi needed to separate from the team for a little while to give him a mental break. So I will say I trust them on that. I think that was a good decision. But, my thought process here is that if they were able to go 4-5 with an academy mid laner who I don't even think is really at the top of academy in terms of mid laners, can you imagine what they would be able to do with an LCS or an LEC caliber pro? Someone who doesn't take a lot of resources. I mean, Jensen and Niski both don't necessarily need resources. And I think, Niski specifically for me just stands out. Again, I know I've said this and I'll say it again and again and again. I think he fits perfectly with this team. I just think his style of play is great. I don't think he needs a ton of resources. I think he's able to keep up in CS. I think he has seen, pros, at the top caliber. He's played against Caps, Bjergsen, Perks, Humanoid, right? Like, he's played against the best caliber mids in the West. I don't think he's played against VTO. Yeah, he played against VTO last year. So yeah, VTO, right? Like even the most recent MVP. He's able to do all this stuff. So I really just believe that he would be able to slot right in and bring stability. And I think the difference between him and Jensen is, well, yes, Jensen is definitely more talented than Niski. I don't think that there's a big argument there. That being said, I think Jensen plays a little more selfishly, even though he doesn't need a lot of resources. And I don't think he's the guy that's going to come in and fix the atmosphere, the locker room presence, right? That you have the glue guy. Niski is that kind of a guy. And he's already made it clear that, he would come to TSM and he thinks he would be able to fix things. And I'm sure he just wants an opportunity to play on a team that's going to be good. And if this team was able to go 4-5 with, with Takeover as their mid laner, then can you imagine what they might be able to do with a player of the caliber of Niski? I'm just saying, that one just seems so obvious to me. I just don't really understand why they're taking so much time unless there are other moves that they are thinking about making. Which, again, I would just save to the offseason, to like the real offseason at this point. Not the midpoint, just the full offseason. Now, I can see the argument of, bring in a young group, get them experience now in the summer, make sure that they make playoffs so they at least get a playoff, game in, and be able to go past that and hopefully win, gain that experience in time for next year. But if they were going to do that, in my opinion, you'd have to go extremely young. Like, basically build a team around Shenyi and Spica, kind of young. You'd send Tactical and Hooney out, and you'd go get the youngest players that you could in top lane. I'm sure if Sunday keeps playing the way that he is, and they don't, and 100 Thieves doesn't think that he's going to be changing that anytime soon, then, somebody like a Tenacity might be available, right? And you could throw him in there with, I don't know, whoever you want in the mid lane. There are plenty of young EU and NA mids that I think are more than capable of playing for this team. And then you look at the AD carry position too. If they think that Instinct has a lot of potential, which I still think he does, you could grab him. You could grab Wixie. I know I'm missing other AD carries, especially in the LCS level, because there are actually some really good ones down on Academy, whose names I'm not remembering right now. But, you could... Jan played really well during the Academy split finals. Like, there is talent that is coming up that is good. Even if they get rid of Spica, which I'm 50-50 on now, after I've gone almost like fully down 50% on my caring of that. You have Kenvi and Will coming up specifically, who I think are absolutely outstanding junglers at the younger level. And Will's coming back from being gone, and from what we've seen, Yurson headed back home. I'm sure he's probably off the team. I'd have to think Hyper's probably going to be off the team at this point. Most likely Viper. Like, I would just keep Takeover and Instinct. That'd be it. And then I'd grab whoever else you can. And if Will's coming back this summer and he has no team has his rights, if I'm TSM, I'm like, all right, Spica, like, if you're going to continue to, act in this way or, make it so that there's still this rift between us and the upper management, then fine. We'll put Kenvi or Will, or, I'm sure probably more likely be Will than Kenvi. But we're going to put him, at the jungler position in Academy, and know that if you don't perform or if you don't, live up to the expectations of what we expect out of, a 21-year-old pro, which is still pretty young, then we will replace you. I don't like that, but, sometimes players need a fire lit under them, and maybe this is the case for him. So, yeah, again, there's so many options here, and we could dive into it forever, I think, and we will. I should preface with that. Yeah, we will do that. But, I wanted to be clear, my thoughts are for now that Niski needs to come in. And my last reason is that I really think that a team with a better mid laner, whoever it may be, I really think that they can make a run for Worlds. I really do. I don't think that they're going to win it, but 100 Thieves, C9, TL, and EG are the very clear top four. And I think if you can get a strong mid laner, then I think you can definitely take one of those three down. Well, you'd have to take two of those three, but at least one of those three. Four, excuse me. And the reality is the LCS is as strong as it's been. I don't care what anybody says. I've been watching these games. I'm using my eyeballs. You guys are using your eyeballs. I'm sure you probably see the same thing. Dude, TL, 100 Thieves, EG, and C9, like, yes, they have their flaws. No doubt. Every team has their flaws, except for T1, basically. I think T1's going to probably just win everything again this year. But when I look at the different players and the different people that are available right now, and I see what opportunity is ahead of us, I think they can beat all these teams. I think they can surpass Golden Guardians, right? I know they can surpass Dignitas, unless if Dignitas makes some moves that I think they might make. FlyQuest, I think they can absolutely surpass them. Immortals, obviously, and CLG more obvious than potentially even Immortals, even though I know Immortals finished worse than them. It was a flawed strategy from the beginning. They didn't have enough time, and that's what spring is for. And I would rather this team finish 4-5 than finish 1-8, right? The start was absolutely awful. I mean, it was so hard to watch these games, but at the 1-8 start, you're just like your expectations are out the door. Then they go 4-5, and you're like, okay, they're building up, right? Like next split, they could go 6-3 and 6-3. Dude, that's 12-6. That's a great record. Even 10-8 for this team would be a great record. That would give them an opportunity, I think, to push for a world spot if they can, find the right meta and find some other picks for themselves that they can figure out. I don't know. It's really tough. Like I'll be honest here. I want to spend the last couple minutes here because again I know this has been a shorter episode, but I wanted to get my thoughts out there. I don't love the idea of Bo coming over, right? Like why put yourself in the same situation that you just went through? And who are you going to get at mid lane instead? It just makes no sense to me. That move I just think is I just think is so unlikely that it would just be really surprising to me. And with Maple too, like why? You're just switching where your problem spots are with two players that aren't necessarily going to push you forward, I don't think. Like, I think these kinds of moves put you in the same spot, in my opinion. Well, I think Maple's a great player, especially Maple. And, I guess if they really felt like they couldn't get a Niski or a Jensen, they could go with Maple. And I want to make sure I'm not thinking of the wrong person here. Second. Yeah, okay, yeah, no, Maple. Okay, good. I was just making sure. Well, I think Maple would be a great addition to the team. I don't think that we're still going to run into the problems of how good is his English, right? How well is he going to be able to mix with the team? And we've seen, him many of times with Flash Wolves, Suning, PSG Talent, LNG, like, dude, this guy has performed. There's no doubt in my mind that he is extremely good, but you're putting yourself in another position of, can he mesh with the team? And I just think that grabbing a European player, Jizuke, Jensen or Niski, I just think is better. And again, I just don't really understand the whole thing behind Bo. Like why would we do that? I just I don't know. It just makes me very confused. I know apparently he was swapping in with TSM during their time when they were over in China and stuff and filling in for Spica. And I understand that he was with what was it? It was Fun Plus Phoenix, right? But like guys, like I mean this guy is suspended or was suspended for match fixing at 19 years old. And we already have an assistant general manager who leaks scrims intentionally and other things. I think it was intentionally, or just leaks scrims in general. Like, we don't need any more crazy crap. Like, we don't need any more of that. I just, it would be a lot for us fans to have to deal with, and for them to have to deal with. And seeing what I've seen about Dominic Callis, I don't think that he's going to make a decision without fully vetting the person himself from here on out, because he knows the TSM LCS team is at a minimum the foundation for TSM. And while they have all these other great teams that are doing well, the Rainbow Six team, not the Valorant team as much, but the Dota team, right? Like they're performing well. Even the Fortnite kid, I think, has been doing really well from what I remember seeing slightly on Reddit when trolling around on there. But like, I just can't imagine that they're going to try to create more controversy and more issues to try to solve for this split. Like, I think they want to just finish out the summer with the best team that they can get and call it a day for now. And then especially if the team doesn't perform, you have multiple months. Right, you'll have like all of September and October to really start laying the foundation of talking to players, figuring out your strategy. What are you going to do? Who are you going to sign? Right? Who are you going to sign? Ghostbusters. I just thought about the way I said that. I don't know. You're not going to sign Ghostbusters, but unless it's, what if there was a player named Ghostbusters? That'd be great. Anyways, back on track. I just don't really believe that their strategy of blowing it up now would make sense unless if they were really certain. I mean, really certain that these young players that they were going to get were going to be a part of their future. And that they were going to help them get to Worlds and perform at Worlds next year. Giving them 2 splits, I think, would be extremely intelligent. But again, it'd be a huge headache. And losing Spica would really hurt your fan base. And you do have to think about that. But at the same time, they may be willing to say, screw it for now, we'll build a new fan base. Or we'll figure out how to bring the new fan base or the old fan base back with new players, right? With young new players that are performing, that are fun, that are interesting. I know they're looking at all the options. And that's why I believe that probably all of my sources are right and all of them are wrong all at the same time. Because I really think that there's a lot of mumbling going on with TSM of what moves they're going to make. It is the number one team this offseason and next offseason to get ready for Worlds 22 and 23. Will they get there? I don't know. But they need a staple. They need a stable player. They need a player that they can build around. And if Spica's not it, then if they're really sure that Spica is not it, then fine, blow it up. But if they're not, then let's take one more stab with this roster. Find them a solid mid laner and let's go forward. Because I don't like the idea of Bo coming in, unless if they're really sure that Bo and Shen Yi are going to mix and then they're going to be able to find a native mid laner, a native AD carry, and a native top laner, by the way, to be able to grow with them or fill in. Because if you just remove Spica and put Bo on this roster, I'm going to tell you right now, that team is not making it to Worlds. Bo may even be better than Spica. I don't know. I don't think so, at least. But I don't know. And even if that's the case, like, are you going to tell me that team's going to make it to Worlds when the team with Spica wouldn't? Like, that just doesn't make sense to me. I just don't. Sure, I bet you they've probably reached out to Bo. The Bo rumor makes sense because they've talked to him, and maybe they're considering it for this upcoming offseason, right? Bo and Shenyi, figuring out their comms, really being able to lead this team, and then you have, both of your carry positions and your top laner. That just makes no sense to me. I just, even saying it out loud makes no sense to me. I'm just going to be honest. I put this Bo rumor at less than 10%, probably even less than 5%. And I'm sure I'm going to look like an idiot when they sign him. And then, I'll be talking about him 3 or 4 weeks from now. And I'll be like, oh my God, Bo is great. He's so good. Could happen. I doubt it, but it could happen. Anyways, today we're going to find out who's going to be at NRG Stadium along with 100 Thieves and TL. Because I forgot that. I always keep forgetting about the way they do the bracket. So 100 Thieves and TL. 100 Thieves already on to the finals. TL waiting to see if it'll be C9 or EG who will be their opponent. I would love to see EG. Not because I have anything against C9 personally, or as a TSM fan, but I think it shows that our league has gotten a lot better if both TSM and C9 don't make it. If only one of the big 3 orgs makes it to the finals, and that means 100 Thieves are kind of officially the 4th big team, something we've been waiting for a long time. If EG makes it, that makes it the 5th big team, right? The more and more teams that continue to perform and continue to work their way to the top, the better the league is going to be, and the more likely it is also that we'll get expansion, which I'm still very certain that the LEC is going to be getting 12 teams next year. Although we will see. I think next year it'll be LEC 12 teams, and then I think the year after it'll be LCS. It's my hunch. They just got to keep, the biggest thing is we just got to keep getting, younger and younger people to, not younger people to be playing. Like, we need to have, middle school teams and high school teams. That's how you start building that farm system to find the best players and get them up to the next level. Once League of Legends can establish that, then it's going to be a game that'll last for a very, very, very long time. Even if the game doesn't continuously bring out new stuff, they can always keep balancing it, making things interesting, deciding metas, all that kind of stuff. But we'll have to see. We'll have to see. And we'll have to see with TSM too, because, I really do expect that we will start to hear major, major rumors next week. I'll make sure to start reaching out to my sources, and maybe TSM has already inked their next mid laner, and they're just waiting, for the season to end to announce it. I will say I probably would have heard a rumor. You guys probably would have seen a rumor if that were to be the case, but right now I wouldn't take anything with more than a grain of salt. Just wait until at least the LCS offseason has started officially, as whoever will be the LCS champion makes their way to South Korea to hopefully win some games and not embarrass NA. All right, if you like the show, please take a second to like, subscribe, and comment if you're watching on our YouTube channel. Hit that bell icon so you don't miss another episode. Let's continue to make this #1 TSM LCS podcast out there. Please take a second to share this with your friends. You can hit me up on Twitter at TGHRobertHaynes. That's the easiest way to reach me, especially if you're wanting to meet up in Houston at NRG Arena. Hope you guys will be watching. I might have some content coming out from there. We'll have to see. You can also hit us up at TGH Esports, where you can see even more content that's been coming out. Lastly, head to thegamehouse.com. Check out all of our new sports and esports and gaming articles that have been coming out. And with that, thank you for tuning in. The show comes out every Monday during the off season, and it's exclusively for your TSM earholes. I'm Robert Haynes, and this has been Talking TSM. I'll see you all next week.